Hello everybody, it is Monday the 9th of May. I want to talk about the completely bipolar thinking of most religious and spiritual people. You know, where they would call good here one thing and good there another. So our two different stages of being alive, or what we call being dead, or existing in a different form. And what's good there is bad here. And the other way around. So why are we here, and what is it that we're supposed to see? Now, it is said in the Bible that when you go there, all your tears will be dried, there will be no more desire, you become a part of the sea, and it is calm, and it is just great. Okay? That is because here you are separate, you are an I am, and you are in an environment of different levels of consciousness. So from vegetative to, the mineral, vegetative, animal, even people themselves around you that are on different levels of consciousness, that create different things. You can see different things created by those levels of consciousness. And that creates desires. And that creates the struggle of wanting to be on a higher level of consciousness. Even the possibility of a higher level of consciousness, you know that because you are surrounded by different levels of consciousness. So you're becoming aware that there are different levels of consciousness. So do you think that over there, so it's here, you are trapped on your level of consciousness or something, but there you're going to be all? No. It is what you... A light being is that we are light, but we are not aware of the light. It is when we become aware that we become. So we are kind of illuminating parts of ourselves while we're here. And what we become here, we will be there. It is there you will no longer change. And there will be no tears and there will be no desire, because you are surrounded you are in a level according to yourself, and you're surrounded by that which is like you. So there will be no desires, because there will be nothing different around you that would create a desire. And you will not know yourself as separate, because you're the same as everything else. And that is why here we evolve and there we are. So, first of all, to say, well, once we get there, we know it all. Well, why do we then talk about different levels of consciousness? Why do we even have the desire to reach a different level of consciousness unless there were different levels of consciousness? And over there it's all one. No. Those levels exist there, and you will go to the level that you will have reached here. But as I said, there will be no more pain, there will be no more desire, because you will not know anything else than what is like yourself. You've become a droplet in an ocean that is all the same as yourself. And that ocean will be still, because there will be no desire, there will be no thought other than the thought of the ocean. And there will be no knowledge of other possibilities there. That is why you won't be crying for other possibilities, because you won't know them. You know them here. And it is here that we have created something that would mirror the heavens. Yeah, the sea of people that are all the same. Like mouse, grey army, all holding the red book, all chanting the same thing. Like those that are indoctrinated in church, like parrots, repeating the same thing. Again, under corporate law, in a groupthink. In a complete groupthink, no individualism. Now, if you look at these people, would you here, when you see other possibilities, would you say they are an enlightened state of consciousness? So if you don't think they are that here, why do you think it will be that there? It's the same, as above, so below, straight up. So there's the bipolar thinking, where they look at things here and say, well, that's wrong, but I want to go to a place where it's exactly like that. Only there it's going to be good because it's heaven. It is completely bipolar. So, and then I had these comments again, should get out of the Bible. That is a low level of consciousness and it traps you in a low level of consciousness. Yes, absolutely it is. The God of the Bible is one of the lowest levels of consciousness. But first of all, in order to get out, you will need to see where you're at. And you will need to get a different perspective from the groupthink that you're in. Because as long as you're in that groupthink, you are in that consciousness. And if you tell me that the parables in the book, they're just stories for children, then you do not understand what those stories are saying. And I would say the one reason why you cannot understand what those stories are saying is because you are on that level of consciousness. You cannot see when you're in it. Again, you need a different perspective. You need to be outside to look in. So if you can see what those stories are saying, means you're already out of that level of consciousness. You're looking at it from a different place. I would not say higher or lower, just different. You're on a different perspective. You're seeing yourself differently. But that is, first of all, we need to get out of that groupthink, and then we can look back into it and see where it was we were at, and that is understanding where we were. And that is a good thing. You should take that time to understand where it was, you were at. To know yourself in that place. Because that is a part of yourself. But then go on to add to what it is you know. So, and that is, again, is the groupthink. You're only allowed in that if you think like everybody else. You are in that consciousness. And you're only allowed if you do according to that consciousness. If you speak according to that consciousness. If you think according to that consciousness, and if in any other way, if you bring a new idea into it, they chuck you out. Again, that is what is described as heaven in that book, and for some reason you don't want to be in it here. But hell, you really want to go there. As above, so below. You are in that heaven. If you are sitting in church repeating like a parrot in a group think, and you judge everything according to the group, and you don't know yourself, then you're in that heaven. You're there. No need to go anywhere. But as I said, you get a new perspective. You go out of that group thing and then look back into it, and you can see what's actually going on. And if you cannot understand what the parables are saying, it means you're still in that consciousness, because you cannot see it whilst you're in it. So what is then a higher, or what do we think is a higher level of consciousness? As I said, we're adding knowledge to ourselves, the knowledge of ourselves. We see ourselves in that groupthink, and we know the person that we were in there. So, and do we enter different worlds? different consciousnesses. That means different group things. I mean, that's in the book of Toast, that he says, I entered different worlds, I entered different consciousnesses. And I would not speak of levels of consciousness, not that one is higher than the other, they're just different. But every time you enter a different consciousness, a different groupthink, you see yourself in that groupthink, you see what that groupthink does. You know yourself in it. But see, Toast did not go to do that until he was a grown-up. That means he was aware of what he was. Yeah? And he did enter the other groupthink. He did not forget what he was entering into that. So he stayed, I am. And that is the level we must reach. We must be I am, in order so that we can enter a groupthink and it can actually give to us. Yeah? Well, either it gives to us or we reject what is there, because in the end we are illuminating parts of ourselves, we are creating ourselves. So for that we must have choice of what we let in and what we reject. But in order to do that, you must be aware of what you are when you are in that groupthink. So you must be inside, but you must be outside at the same time. So, and it is then really a question of, you know, they say you are an actor, you know, you play a part, which is very true. And if you're entering a groupthink, you're becoming a different part. Now, I would say the best actor and the most you can take out of that group of consciousness is you must immerse yourself in it. You know, the best actor is somebody who can completely identify with this role. The more they can, the better they can act that role. So you must immerse yourself to a point to get the full experience of that groupthink you must become. But not fully. You must not lose yourself in there. Yeah, you must always be aware of what it is you're doing, what it is you are, and what your purpose is in that consciousness. So that is when you, and there's when you do away with the ego altogether. For myself, I ask nothing. And that is what God demands, the God of the Bible. You know, that groupthink, under the intention I want to have dominion. And you must serve it. You must become it. You must become a part of that sea that wants that, and you mustn't see anything else apart from that, you know, tunnel vision. So that is what the group's things demand, and they all do that. They all demand that, you know, that you become completely them, but you mustn't. Otherwise, you lose yourself, and you will become that. You will become it. And then when you leave this world, you will be in a sea that is according to that. And then you will no longer know that you're in there. Until maybe, and that is why we're born, because we wake up in those seas. As here, again, so above, we wake up in those seas. You know, all of a sudden we pick our little head up from the sea of consciousness saying, this can't be right. How the hell did I get here? And it is then most likely that the groupthink that you're in, the consciousness that you're in, is chucking you out, saying, well, you can't be here anymore. You're not one of us. You're questioning this. And that is probably when we're being reborn. To, again, find another part of ourselves, add to ourselves, become higher awareness of ourselves, and that's a higher level of consciousness. And in the end, that is the highest level of consciousness where you can enter into a groupthink without forgetting who you are. And again, enter into that groupthink without being destructive or without changing the groupthink. You're not there to judge it. Maybe you're not there to change it. but to change yourself. To change yourself. And that is what we're doing. But as I said, it's completely bipolar to say this is nothing, there is everything, when we think here we should reach higher levels of consciousness, but we're saying there it's all the same, so what the hell are we doing if there are not different levels of consciousness? And to say, well, here, or we say part of a seed, that means you're indoctrinated into a thinking. You have lost the ego. You become a parrot, you become a sheep in politics, in religion, and whatever it is, group you're in, that you have completely immersed yourself in, and you've forgotten who you are. And then we would describe that here as a low level of consciousness, whereas there we say, glory, hallelujah, let's all go there. It is here that you can evolve, that you can add to yourself. And it is here there is desire, because you're surrounded by other levels of consciousness and you see the possibilities. And you, as I say, enter into them, not losing yourself, but with the intention to learn. And if you were in that book, the Bible, and you can now look at it from the outside and see what it is actually saying, means you're no longer in that level of consciousness. You have stepped outside of it into a different consciousness. But if you think that, well, I mean, if you see it's low consciousness, you're already halfway there, that's good. But if you think it is nothing and it's telling you nothing, and the parables are just for children and just stories, then you're not out far enough of that level of consciousness to see what it's actually saying. You're still in it, therefore you don't see it. Anyway, I leave it at that for today, and I talk to you again soon. Bye.